Hello there, vinyl community, and welcome to a very special celebration. This is really a year celebration for many reasons. I have decided, as you could see, to celebrate the year of 1986. Now, what's to celebrate in 1986? I mean, it was so many tragic things that happened. We had the Chernobyl accident, we had the Challenger accident, and also we've been notified multiple times here in Swedish television that this year marks the 30 years ago that our ex-Prime Minister Olof Palme was shot. And a lot of tragic things happened, but there also were some positive things happened, and that is one thing that I really wanted to share with you in the vinyl community, and that is that this year is 30 years ago since I bought my very first vinyl album. I've shown this many times, but since it isn't some kind of a anniversary, I have to show it, even though it's not from 1986. You have seen that my first album ever that I bought was Paul Hardcastle's self-titled debut from 1985, containing his hit 19. And today, not this day, but this year, it is 30 years ago since I bought it, which more or less started my record collection. So you might call it that today, this year is my this record collection's 30 years anniversary. And I wanted to share that with you, vinyl community, by, of course, show my favorite singles and albums from 1986, but also to do something that I have never done before. A little nervous because this is my very first time that I do something like this. I'm not going to do a contest because I have no prizes really that anyone is interested in. But what I can do, I know that threads are not all that, it's not just as popular maybe as contests. So this might go either way. Might be failure, might be success. But it feels like sometimes I should do a one thread or contest in order to see how things are done. So I want to do a thread. For every one of you, I want you to show me your favorite albums from 1986. I'm going to show my favorite albums from 86. Now let's see your albums. I'm not going to be all that hard when it comes to which is an 86 album or not. I mean, if it is an album that was very popular in 1986, and you can show favorite single 7-inch or favorite LPs. It's all up to you. I take both. And if it is an album or single that is popular in 1986, but it actually is made in 1985, it's perfectly alright with me. The same is that if it is an album that really was popular in 1987 but was released or made in 1986, also counts in 86. It's up to you. I'm not going to be tough. I just want to see what you like when it comes to this magic year of 1986. Maybe records that you remember that you were listening to most of all in 1986. What are your favorite records, singles from 1986, 30 years ago? So let's show what I listened to most of all in 1986. And I also like to prefer that when you do a video with that, please post a link in the comment section for that video, else there's a chance I might miss it. And wouldn't be funny at all if I did. So post a link in the comment section, please. Let's now start 1986. Starting with a person that has been almost regular for every year. Maybe it's because it's an artist that was popular in almost every year. Still am, I guess. Of course, Madonna. I showed the True Blue album over and over, but I thought it was time to show some 7-inch. Papa Don't Preach. Her most popular single this year. This single I showed before, a little banged up sleeve, but still Live to Tell. This is a song that, when I heard it the absolute first time, I fell in love with it immediately. I thought it was such an awesome disco track that was really, really fantastic and really funky melody. Really loved Alisha's song Baby Talk. Same goes with this one, also a song that I liked from the very first time I heard it, because it was such an odd song, but it's very intelligent production and a very smart song. Hollywood Beyond, What's the Color of Money? Might call it a true one-hit wonder, unfortunately. Here is a song that I like very, very much. Fantastic production by Stock Aitken and Waterman, very early form of theirs. And maybe I really like Stock Aitken and Waterman's more early days, because they're more soul disco than just regular disco, which I also liked. They're more popular stuff, but I really like their early stuff. Princess, After the Love Is Gone. Fantastic song, fantastic melody. Here is maybe this band's maybe most forgotten song, Unfairly So, because I think it's one of this band's absolute best songs, even though if you take a look at the video, it's so much unlike this band. ZZ Top, Velcro Fly. I like the production, really awesome production. Video, a little bit corny for a ZZ Top video, but still fun anyway. So I really like this one. Little odd single, as I said. My favorite 80s girl, Sandra, and her single Innocent Love. One of the first singles that I learned to like with her. Here is a comedian single that was released for, I think it was for cancer or something like that. It was, no, it's Africa. It was a charity single for Africa, made by Cliff Richard and a British comedy group called The Young Ones. It was Cliff Richard made a re-recording of his old hit Living Doll. However, with this guys, The Young Ones, really messy guys who messing around Cliff and try their best to disturb and destroy the recording. I think it's actually hilariously funny. Definitely one of the funniest songs in 1986. Coming to artists that it's not famous for releasing records, but I think it works pretty good, even though they are famous for not being all that good singers. But I actually like the singles. Carl Lewis, Break It Up. Here in Sweden it worked pretty well. He was pretty high on the Swedish hit chart with this song. Didn't reach gold, but still. And the same goes with Miami Vice, Mr. Miami Vice, Don Johnson, and Heartbeat. Maybe not the best-selling single of the year, but definitely not a failure. had pretty good positions in the hit charts. Here is a group that had its breakthrough here in Sweden this year, and I liked them from almost the beginning because they were so funky and they were so fantastic produced, fantastic melodies, this kind of European soul music that I like very much. 5 Star from Great Britain with Can't Wait Another Minute, and the follow-up single Find the Time. Also one of my absolute favorite songs this year by German Modern Talking, Atlantis is Calling. Having classic Starship with their follow-up single for We Built This City. It was a hit in Sweden in 1986. Here it says that it was created in 1985, but it was a hit in 1986. Sarah, a really touching and really fine ballad. In Sweden, it was also a breakthrough for a certain member of the Jackson family. Talking about Janet Jackson. She had been having in Sweden, there were airing Fame here, television series Fame, and the seasons where she was an actress in that series were aired this year, and at the same time she also released her singles What Have You Done For Me Lately, and also from the album Control, Nasty. And not only was it a breakthrough for Janet Jackson, it was also a breakthrough for the master producers of soul, some of the funkiest producers ever, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Also, there's a lot of breakthroughs this year, bands who will become big later on. Breakthrough also for Pet Shop Boys. Their breakthrough single here in Sweden, West End Girls. And we have, of course, another banged up sleeve, but still good one. Love Comes Quickly, the second single. We have the third single, Opportunities, Let's Make Lots of Money. This were actually their first single, but now when they have become a household name, they re-released it, recorded it again, and released it again. And now it became a hit. And their fourth single, and the one who became the biggest hit this year in Sweden that year, Suburbia. So Pet Shop Boys had 4 big hits in 1 year, immediately. So pretty good year for this band. This is a totally forgotten band that was a whole lot better than they've been given credit for, even though they only released 1 album. Magnificent album that is also. 22B3 is the name of the album. Device, Hanging on a Heart Attack, one of the best songs of the year. And the follow-up single, no one remembers, but I think it's definitely an awesome one. Who Says. Device is sadly forgotten group. Holly Knight, who was producer and composer for other artists, Pat Benatar and so on, and Paul Engelman, who later on would be famous in band Animotion and had a hit with Room to Move. Aha had a breakthrough in 1985 with Take On Me. The follow-up singles, this one was recorded in 1985, but in Sweden it was a huge hit here in 1986. The Sun Always Shines on TV. That was followed by Train of Thought. I love these singles when they were released in 1986. And in the autumn they released a second album, Scandal Days, which had as its first singles I've Been Losing You. Also another good year for Aha with 3 great singles in 1 year. So let's move on with some of the best and most interesting albums during this year, 1986. We're having here a band that I like very, very much, have always done. OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, and their splendid album, The Pacific Age, containing hit singles like Forever Live and Die and We Love You. We Love You is maybe one of the most sadly forgotten songs. The only CD that I will show. Also, I think everyone remembered this one. Peter Cetera and Solitude Solitaire. Of course, containing Glory of Love. I never liked this song when it came, actually, and it is the song The Glory of Love when it came, actually, and I have at that time, for some stupid reason, hard to listen to Pete Cetera's little high voice. I don't know, it sounded a little phony for me. Of course, I changed my mind by the time, and today I really like Pete Cetera as a singer. Soundtrack. This movie was maybe not the most viewed movie during this year, and I'm not too sure that the soundtrack also was. It wasn't the most selling soundtrack either, but it definitely was a sadly forgotten soundtrack that was really good. Absolute Beginners, and we're having some really great names here. We have, of course, the magnificent title track by David Bowie that I mentioned before in his my tribute video to him. We're having Sade, Style Council, Ray Davies from Kinks, Jill Evans, the Jazz Master, in a fantastic song Vava Voom. Eighth Wonder here with Patrick Kensit, and Working Week, Slim Gaillard, the classic guitar player, and Jerry Dammers. So we're having some really classic artists here on this soundtrack. Some of these artists also has a role in the movie. And we have a band that I never really have been really all that interested in. Their works from the early 80s was not my favorite stuff. I have a hard time listening to Do You Really Want to Hurt Me and Karma Chameleon. I never liked these songs, still don't. But there was at least one album that I really liked, and of course it has to do with which producer it is. You have already guessed that it is Culture Club and their album From Luxury to Heartache, produced by Arif Mardin, who produced the magnificent album by Scritti Politti, Cupid and Psyche, the fantastic album by Chaka Khan during the 80s. Fantastic producer, and he did some great songs for Culture Club like Move Away and God Thank You Woman, Gusto Blasto. Some fantastic songs on this sadly forgotten Culture Club album, their final album also. Also sadly forgotten, but this actually is my favorite album by this band. A band that I don't hate. I think they've done some good stuff. Maybe not my absolute favorite band of the 70s that did songs during the 80s as well. I'm talking about Electric Light Orchestra and their album Ballads of Power. But I think this one is one of their, maybe their best album ever, because I really like Calling America and So Serious singles and the rest of the songs here. So I really normally have a hard time for Jeff Lynne's little fat productions, but I think this might be the best production that Jeff Lynne has ever done, in my book. And of course, can't show 1986 without having some Depeche Mode and their album Black Celebration. One of the best albums of the 80s. Having Fly on a Windscreen, Question of Lust, Question of Time. What an awesome song that is. Stripped, Dressed in Black, New Dress. Really, really great album this. And when we're into old synth legends, here is a guy who, with his new album, tried to move away from the synthesizers a little bit. I'm talking about Howard Jones and his album 121, who was, as I said, a little step back from the synthesizers comparing to Dream Into Actions. That if you listen to the single "You Know I Love You, Don't You," know what I'm talking about. And but I love like this album because he had a way to create melodies that it doesn't matter because it sounds so really good. Even if "You Know I Love You, Don't You" is his absolute best song. It's an okay song, but I like the song "All I Want." That is a fantastic single. Another band also tried to make their change from their previous, more successful albums. Was German Alphaville. I said that Forever Young is one of the best albums ever. This is not one of the best albums, their best album, but that was not to expect either. But it's a great album nonetheless, even though they tried very hard to move away from the more hit song-oriented style. But there are some really great songs here. Jerusalem, fantastic song. I really liked then back in 1986. I really liked their single "Dance with Me." Fantastic alpha. Maybe there's the song of this album that reminds most of Alphaville as we knew from the Forever Young album. Also, "Sensations" is a fantastic song. "Universal Daddy." Really great song. So a new fantastic album from Alphaville. Here is another band that I liked from the very first moment I heard them. First time I heard them was in the song "Living in the Past," and first time I heard that one in Swedish radio, I just had my jaw drop to the floor, and I thought it was a fantastic song. I listened so carefully. I really liked the drums, the beat, the rhythmic calypso style from Drum Theater. Sadly forgotten band that made some really great songs. Eldorado and "Home Is Where the Heart Is," the follow single, never became a hit, but it was a fantastic, great song. And I bought this album Every Man and realized that this is a fantastic, sadly forgotten album, that very underrated album. And also another artist that when I heard it first time, I just got knocked out. Was so fantastic, even though I never heard of the artist before. Nicole McLeod and "What About Me," and the fantastic single "Don't You Want My Love." What a disco track this is. So fantastic. And the entire album is pure fantastic disco soul from the 80s. Pure lesson in fantastic disco soul. So highly recommended. Sadly forgotten classic. So I also wanted to show which single that, as I usually does, watch the most selling single in Sweden this year. Unfortunately, I can't show it because I don't have it, because it's a song that I am not all that fond of. It's maybe one of the most overplayed songs in Sweden that I feel like I can't listen to it anymore. And of course, I'm talking about "Europe, the Final Countdown." That was the most selling single in Sweden this year. But let's see now, what are your favorite singles or albums from the year of 1986? I hope that many will participate in this thread. Let's see what this goes, but it's fun to have done a thread once in my vinyl community career anyway. So with that, I hope to see you in the moves, and until next time, I hope you have a really nice weekend, and so long.